today we have Mr. Banks, and he's currently a staff auditor with the United States Army Audit Agency at their San Antonio field office and a member of the agency recruiting team. He is a retired Army helicopter mechanic. He's a 2017 graduate at this campus, Central Texas A&M, with a bachelor's degree in accounting and business administration and majored in accounting. He's a former vice president of records for this society. And for the past 18 months, he has been on 2 medical performance readiness audits, greatly enhancing Army medical training and soldier battlefield survivability. Let's give it up for Mr. Banks.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Do I need to stand in a certain spot?
No, you're fine. You got all the room you want.
All the room I got? Great, that's great. So, I will tell you, 2 years ago, I sat right where you're sitting, watching people present to me, wondering, probably firstly, do I really want to do the job that they're describing? So, hopefully, when it's all said and done today, you have a better idea of what we do at Army Audit Agency. I can imagine, any of you have anybody in the military, or have you been in the military? Or? Okay. Good. I'll kind of watch my jargon, but maybe not. So what I have here on the desk, and I'll hand these out later. I don't want to give it to you now because then you'll have some of the slide presentation. Is a little take-home flyer you have, and it has my business card stapled to it. And I'll have a sign-in roster if you'd like to get any job information. I can email that to you as I get it. I guess I need a clicker or pointer clicker.
Anybody got that?
You just gotta hit the button.
Just hit the button. All right.
Do you want me to sit there and you can point at me?
You can. You can. Okay, so U.S. Army Audit Agency. So we're internal auditors for the Army. Okay, so what we do is we go out to units, we go out to, interesting enough, like Hurricane Katrina, that was the Civil Corps civil engineers. So we had auditors there to find out what happened with the levees and information to report back. We work for the Secretary of the Army. Well, we work for the Auditor General who works for the Secretary of the Army. And our mission is to take care of families, soldiers, civilians, the interests of the Army. Next slide, please. All right, so we're value-added service. Most of our budget says $76 million is really like salaries. Salaries and TDY costs traveling. We don't have any, other than our computers, we have our own materials as far as part of that budget. But we bring more value than what we cost. So that's how we stay alive, or that's how we function. If that wasn't the case, then we wouldn't be here. We have 16 field offices in the United States, and 1 in Germany and 1 in South Korea. And there'll be another map of that later, a little picture. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's the map. So I'm in San Antonio, down at the bottom. We have a Fort Bliss office all over the United States. So if you apply, or if you'd like to become part of our agency, probably the only places you don't really get directly hired are Korea and Europe. So if you want to go there, they'll ask you, okay, does anybody want to go to Korea? Anybody want to go to Europe? And that's how you end up going to one of those field offices. And they're like developmental assignments. But I'll get more into that. I guess what I wanted to say is, like, we have regional teams. We have teams that do different specialties, and you'll see that also later. But Korea and Europe, since they're located outside the States, they do all kinds of audits. So their teams would get more experience doing everything, and not just a certain type of audit. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our organizational structure. So at the very top, you have the Secretary of the Army. Then our Auditor General is right below the Secretary of the Army. She's also a civilian. The only green suitor we have in our entire organization is the executive officer. He's a full bird colonel, and he does protocol for our agency. And then everyone else is civilians. They're general equivalents up the very top. Our Auditor General, and then our PDAG, the Principal Auditor General. I'm right here for medical audits. I'm down here. So we have our own deputy auditor general, and we have directors. So what I will say is, our organization is changing. So I've done 2 medical audits, and later this year in October, that's the fiscal year where most change normally happens, fiscal year, change happens in the Army. We're gonna become more of a pooling system, like the civilian sector. So I'll finish an audit, I'll get pulled out the pool, and I'll just get put on another audit, whatever it is, that's where I'm going. Sort of directorate based, but it's not gonna just be medical like it is now, where now I'm on the medical team. Feel free to, if you have any questions, I don't mind answering them while we're on the slides. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have been one of the best places to work for the last 7 years. I don't know if we were top 5 last year. Could be, I'm not sure. But we do have these plaques all over our office. We're the best place to work.
Do you agree with that?
Yes, of course.
Everybody got signs, but
Of
we got
Of course.
signs too.
You know, we'll get into something on the right side of the line. Okay. So we do have an onboarding program. We have training opportunities. We have compensation. I mean, we work for the federal government. I mean, that's going to be what it's going to be. I will tell you, we have one of the highest journeyman grades. That's, you know, for the term busy bee or the actual everyday worker for GS-12s at full journeyman. So it's pretty high for as far as what I can tell. Most of the time it might be 11 if you're accounting, but for auditing it's 12. That's part of the rapid career progression. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our team, how our team is based. So I'm a staff auditor at the bottom. I have an auditor in charge, that's my direct supervisor. And then we all work for our audit manager. So our audit manager at any time is working 2 audits, go back and forth between the 2. We call them AICs, the 2 AICs. And then of course, we constantly are working with our AIC. I don't know if you have any questions on how that might work, but I don't know.
Question.
Yes.
4 auditor teams with 2 AICs, what are y'all area of responsibility?
Okay, so this is just an individual. This is one person, and we work for the one auditor in charge. So what the auditor in charge will do is she'll create, and with our assistants, sometimes we create our own area, an audit guide. And that's, I'm sitting here thinking, because I know one of our classes, I know we had to make an audit guide, I'm not sure.
No, but what is your area of responsibility?
It'll be in the
San
audit guide.
Antonio?
Say again? I'm asking, I'm sorry.
Is it from San Antonio all the way up until Arkansas, the width? How far are the responsibilities?
Okay.
Cause you got an office in El Paso, more than likely you got one in Washington DC, and depending on if y'all have one up north. So how do y'all split these areas responsibilities up?
Okay. I misunderstood your question. I thought you meant like responsibility for our daily work. But so for medical audits, there is no regional responsibility. Like, so when I did my last 2 audits, we selected sites. I went all over the country. I was in Seattle, Washington. I was in New York, New Jersey. So the sites that are randomly selected aren't regional based. It's not based off of just being in San Antonio. The agency did previously work in regions, like where we actually worked a certain area. Like I would be most of Texas, maybe some of Louisiana, some of Arizona. But that's kind of changed. So it's not based on like geographical location.
Sounds like it's more based on line of business, sort of.
Right, right. Whatever units have what we're looking for, that's where we're gonna go. So if the unit's in Seattle, we're gonna go to Seattle. If it's in New York, we're gonna go to New York, and that's how we're gonna do it. And the more units we touch, the better. That way we're not picking on one core or one, like Fort Hood and 3 core. or we're not just in Fort Bragg, 82nd or something. We're touching everybody, so everybody gets a little bit of the love, so to speak. And then when we write the report, we can talk about how the whole Army looks, not just this area or this area. So I do have another slide that talks about travel. We do travel. Okay, so I knew this wasn't gonna be, this was gonna be really tiny. So what I'm trying to show you here is, there needs to be a better version of this slide. What I mean by that is at the top it says GS1 on one side and it says GS14 and above on the other side. You used to actually break it down to like GS1 through 4, 5 through 7 or something like that. It doesn't do that anymore. But I guess what I want to get to is that however you come into the agency, whatever grade you come in at, and I'll touch on that some more too. We have different competencies that we have to do, FM certifications, that type of stuff, and it's actually based on your grade level. So you're not going to be doing some strategic leadership course when you just came in. You're going to slowly do it as you progress, and everything's going to go higher as far as, so it's like if you came in as a student intern, you have to have an associate's degree. They're not going to expect you to be doing some of the stuff on this right side. But what I want to point out is somewhere in the middle. So I wish I had my pointer. It's the Syracuse Master's Program. They have a Syracuse Master's Program. We've seen in Syracuse, New York. You get 2 master's degrees and FM certification. There's something else you do. Oh, it's 14 months, high pace. It is a bear, but you get paid the whole time you're there. You get paid to go to school and they're paying for your school. I would venture to say the opportunity is there for everyone, but everyone doesn't get selected. It's based off of the pool of applicants. You're not gonna. It's not automatic. I guess I'll put that. That's some of the right side of the line stuff too. Your go-getters, they're gonna be at the top. They're gonna get first choice. That's what I wanted to talk about there. We also have certification qualification requirements. Not hard requirements, but if you want to be a fast tracker, you want to get promoted, you want to be on the right side really quick, then you need to have your CPA, your CIA, your CMA. You want to get your certifications. And they do have reimbursable programs if funds are allowed. We do have what's called an individual development plan where it's like your contract. Okay, I want to progress. I want to take these courses, and if it gets approved, then some of them are reimbursable. You pay first, and then they pay you back. Or some of them are as funds are available. You go ahead and take this course. And of course, it's work driven. I mean, we have tons of work which we seem to always do. You have to get your job done first. Yes.
Question, not to get political in any ways, but if you do get accepted for the internship program, how with the CRs, government shutdown potentials, how does that affect the internship program?
You mean as far as your pay or the going to school?
Pay both.
Well,
Will they, because it's happened to me before.
If you're in
school and, the CR, the continuing resolutions, if sometimes they'll stop the class, things like that.
So if you're in the program I'm going to describe later, your school is like for no other better terms, it's like your responsibility for your school. Now you do get paid while you go to school to do your job, but a CR is a CR. When we have a continuing resolution and we get to the end date, none of us go to work. None of us are getting paid. The last budget that was passed funded DOD for the whole entire year. So when the CR happened, we continued to work. There were other agencies that shut down. You had Homeland and you had some other ones. But the DOD was funded for the whole entire fiscal year.
So I'm thinking what she's asking is it budgeted based on fiscal year or calendar year? Because mostly everything is budgeted on fiscal year.
Yes.
When they did the government shutdown, they were already funded for the fiscal year. But if you budgeted on calendar year, you wasn't budgeted, and that required those agencies to shut down. So I believe unless I'm mistaken, dealing with the school thing, are they fiscal versus calendar? And it's the same way when we go to school here. We were not affected with the government shutdown because all the money was programmed back in October. So it didn't have an issue.
Right. Are you talking about the Syracuse program I talked about? Or are you talking about internship, like if you were?
I was originally asking about the internship program. Would a continuing resolution affect students that's in the internship program as a whole?
So,
If you don't know the answer now, that's fine, I can get back with you.
well, I'm just telling you, there's two answers. If it's just like this year, it wouldn't have affected anything. Because you would have been, just like we were funded through the rest of the year, you've been funded too. Once they hire you, you know, you're part of the budget.
Okay.
Once they say, okay, you're hired, or you're in our internship program, because, and I'll explain it more, it's not just a semester program where you just come work with us for a semester. It has a requirement. It's almost like you're hired part-time.
Okay.
That's the best way to explain it. Next, please. Okay, so travel opportunities, up to 30% travel is a condition of hiring. When you get hired, you have to be able to travel at least 30%, which that means like out of any month, 1 week, that's like 25, right? So like a little bit over a week, 10 days a month was what it boils down to. And it does not include your training. So when I go away to training to Virginia, that's not counted as my travel. The agency had it a lot higher before. I mean, it was up to, they were hiring people with 60% travel. And I think as you get promoted, it might increase too. But right now it's 30%. I mean, by promoted, I mean like other than journeyman, like AIC or audit manager or program director, that type of stuff. This hits the same thing, the 3 overseas locations and 48 contiguous United States. We used to have an Alaska office, but that's gone now. Next. Okay, some of the employee benefits, flexible work schedules. We do 410s. I did 410s when I first got hired. Worked Monday through Thursday, and I would have my Fridays off, 10 hours a day. With traffic, that ended up being almost 12 hours a day. So I spent all my Fridays doing errands, and I realized I didn't like that schedule because I would spend most of Friday like taking stuff to do, laundry and everything else, or cleaners, I should say. Casual dress. Our auditor general likes to say the work dress requirement is be dressed. So I will tell you, when we go to ops, that's a lot of times we're asked a lot of questions. Ops is in Virginia, that's where we go to school. When we go to ops, somebody always raises their hand and goes, so I had an audit manager that was upset that I had open-toed shoes. And they will say, okay, be dressed. Well, I'll talk offline about that. Because it is be dressed, but you do have to, you know, you can't come to work with shorts on and a Hawaii shirt or something. It just doesn't work. I will tell you, being at Fort Sam Houston and being on the medical team, Army Medicine is in Fort Sam. So at any time, we could be told, hey, go over to MedCom, Medical Command. You know, it can't be the day I showed up and, you know, whatever.
So, no Texas casual.
Exactly, so I like to have my jacket hanging up on my cube so I can just grab it out the door if I have to go somewhere, you know. Annual sick leave, federal employment retirement, that's the same as any federal job. Paid holidays, leave, thrift savings plan, comprehensive health plans, which you get to pick your own, that type deal. Any questions on that? Next. Okay, professional development. So I've been to the auditor process basic course. It just depends on when you go. We have some people who have gone like within the first month of being an auditor. So it really helps then. I'm not gonna say it didn't help me. I think I'd already been 9 months in when I went. So a lot of stuff I kind of was already exposed to, but you know, I had to go to the course. And it's just whenever the course is available. They're not gonna make a course because I just got hired. Oh, you got hired, we go to the course. On the job training, I think it's kind of what Dr. Koch explained. It's not, hey, go read your yellow book. And I'll talk about this in a minute when we go read your yellow book and learn how to do something, and then come talk to me, explain it to me, I'll give you a task. And I was like, no, it's kind of like, go do this, and then you run around, oh, how do I do this, how do I do this? And then you turn it in, and it gets that's not right, that's not right, that's not right. So you have to be a little thicker skinned. Don't be upset because someone marked up your work. That's also on the job training too. And then some of the courses they offer. I went to the data analysis course last summer. That's a story behind that, but I'll tell you later. Okay, professional development, professional certifications, like I talked about, CPA, CIA, CMA. Oh my goodness, there's all kinds of stuff out there. Higher education, and then the supervisory training, developmental assignments, team rotations. The team rotations aren't as important as they were, especially with the pooling coming. The team rotations were, as I was told, and as a new hire, you're supposed to be on 2 teams within your probationary period. They don't want you to be an excellent medical auditor, and then we put financials in front of you, and you go, oh, I don't do that. I can't do this. So they're supposed to rotate you so you get exposed to multiple things during the probationary period, which is 24 months right now. It changes all the time. It's changed before when people were like 12 months, and they're getting to the 12th month, and oh, it just changed to 24. Yes. Next.
I like goals.
Next slide. Okay, rapid career development. I think I have another one on this next slide. There it is. Okay. So it all depends. If you're a student intern, more than likely you'll be a GS4. Right now, that's about $32,000 a year. But you're going to be working part-time because you're also going to school. So, you know, that's probably going to be around half of that. I think I'll talk later about being hired. So if you have a bachelor's degree and you don't have a 3.0 GPA, overall GPA, probably come to the agency as a 5 for an announcement, GS5. And then you go 5, 7, 9, 11, 12. And then if you're, I got hired as a 7, my GPA was over 3.0, and then currently right now I'm a 9, and 11 will be sometime this year, hopefully. No, it will be, but that's our career progression. And then you stay at 12 until you apply. You competitively apply for the next higher grades. You know, 13th AIC, 14th audit manager, 15th program director, which right now all of them work in DC, all the program directors and higher. So, questions?
Yeah, how long you working there so far?
So I've been there since October of 17. Just shy of 2. Yes. 18 months. Something like that. That's why the taping was a little nuts. But anyway.
So you had your bachelor's of accounting.
Yes.
What did they start you out as? What GS level?
So if I just had a less than 3.0, I would have been a GS5. But I had a higher than that.
Okay. So then they started you at the 7.
At the 7. And if I had a master's degree, I would have started as a 9. So.
Master's on accounting or anything?
So, interesting. So if you have an undergrad in accounting, you have your 24 hours, but you have a master's degree and it's in business related, then you still would be a 9. If you had your undergrad in, I don't know, marketing, but your master's is in accounting, but you, some kind of way, possibly because of leveling courses, have your 24 hours, then you would still. But if you don't have, you gotta have your 24. That's the big thing. You know. As a recruiter, that's what I say the most. People come up to me and I've done auditing, I've done this.
So we have intermediate 1, 2, 3, governmental, I think.
We have a lot.
Yeah.
We're good.
You got way more than 24.
Yes. Yeah, we went to
Can you
24.
make sure?
Oh, and out of the 24,
24 accountant or?
we do take 6 business law out of the 24. So really, you can, you know, so 2 business law courses will count also for the 24.
Who taught advanced when you took it?
Why are you bringing this up?
My GPA's all right till this month.
Dr. McNabb. I don't even want to bring that up.
No,
I don't wanna-
advanced.
In other words, nothing's changed.
We don't even, I don't even know.
That's what he just said.
Oh my God.
I just wondered if it was Dr.
You're traumatizing me. Okay.
Either way, you're traumatized.
Next.
Like that.
Okay, so this is USA Jobs. So other than collecting like resumes today, so for the resumes I collect today, I'll collect them if you're trying to do the internship, but actually it reads that that one has to be an announced position. So the other resumes I collect can be some of the direct hire, depending on the needs of the agency. And I will tell you, a lot of people say, okay, federal job, okay, all the veterans get, well, veterans do get preference, they do. But I will tell you, there are a lot of veterans who don't have 24 hours in the county. So with that being said, I mean, we've people just not uncommon, people right out of college just to get hired by us because veterans just don't have, I mean, traditional, 22-year-olds straight out of college. Just because I've been to hiring heroes and they'll walk up to you and they'll talk to you and they don't have 24 hours. I can't help you. There's nothing we can do. I mean, that is a OPM, Office of Personnel Management requirement for the 511 series and the 510. So accounting and auditing, you have to have 24 hours. There is no way around it. So that being said, these are the type of announcements that you can look when you log in, you create an account. You create an account, you log in, you upload your information, you search for jobs, and just literally what they said. I was hired in a recent graduate. I'll tell you, they will hire you, you get priority for that 2 years after you graduate, up to 2 years, and then 9 months before you graduate. So go figure that. You really have to hit your mark if you tell them, I'm gonna graduate on this date. And the first job I actually had, I did a phone interview. They selected me. They didn't really give me a letter. They won't give you a job offer because you got to do your security background. I think I felt like I was in limbo, but I actually had the job. I mean, once I graduated, sent them a copy of my transcript and my diploma. They called me up and said, okay, we're ready for you. So it works. It works. Questions? Yes.
Because I think I'm going to apply, so I need to be, I can't really see it on the screen. What am I putting in the keywords?
Okay, so once you get into USA Jobs, you have radio buttons you can select, little buttons. And you're gonna select recent graduate if you're looking for that one. You got a recent graduate. And then it'll give you the announcements. You can search by job series if you want to be an auditor. You can do 511. It'll have more than just Army audit in there. You'll have everything. Anybody that's a federal auditor, I mean, I think you would tell me forestry service or something. Anything. Anybody who has a 511, you'll find that. And then of course you can narrow your search. You can say within 50 miles of whatever zip code you give them or whatever if you don't want to go out. I will tell you it's very limited. When I look for jobs just around this area, I mean, I think people go to Fort Hood and they never leave. So it's hard to get a job on Fort Hood. Even knowing somebody, if that works, I don't know if that works. It doesn't work. Yeah. Next. All right. So this is the one that this is going to describe the internship program that we have. Okay, it is a Pathway Student Internship Program. Has to be an announcement. That's the thing. What I will tell you is, if you look up one and it says the job's in Missouri, don't worry about it, because I have guidance that says we can't say just because you're here you can't apply for a job in Missouri. Now, there is some ways around it. Part of our pooling, they've given us government iPhones. We're more virtual. So I will say, what they'll probably tell you is you have to work out of the field office in San Antonio. If you want to drive from here to there, if you want to go to school here, but you still want to drive there, if that's what you want to do, no one's going to tell you no. I know one of our interns we had actually did work for St. Louis, even though she was in our office down in San Antonio. I don't think the team had her drive up there just for the sake, or fly up there just for the sake of flying up there. I think she would go whenever they went somewhere else. If they went somewhere, she'd meet them wherever they were meeting to do her work, and then she would fly back to San Antonio. I didn't really talk with her much, so I don't really know her opinion on the program. I was fairly new there. I'm not going to say that. I just didn't know a lot of people. So we didn't know each other enough to talk about it. I didn't even know she was an intern. I didn't know until right before she left. And somebody's like, oh, she's an intern. I'm like, she seemed like everybody else. I thought she was just traveling all the time when she wasn't there, but she probably was in class on those days. So you have to have at least 2 years of school. You don't have to have an associate's degree, but you have to have at least 2 years of school. And that depends on what your school says. Probably 60 hours, but I don't think there's an exactly 6-hour requirement. And then your degree that you're working towards has to be business administration, finance, public administration. Next slide. Okay. So these are some of the hard requirements if you want to go that route and you want to become a full auditor afterwards. So you have to complete at least 640 hours of work experience. So that boils down to 26 hours a week if you just want to just keep it the same if you're like me, and it's got to be the same regimented 26 hours a week. 2 years later, as you finish your degree, you'll finish your 640 hours. I will tell you, we had someone that worked with us that did it in 1 year. He came to work every day, 8 hours a day, and he did his school at night. A year later, he had finished with his master's, and he went from GS4 to GS9. Of course, you have to complete your degree. You have to meet the qualification standards for the position, agency requirements, and perform your job successfully. So intern is a little bit harder because you're on a special probation while you're an intern anyway, and you still have to do the probationary period after you become a full hire. So it could be 3 years or 4 years based on how you did it. If you did it in 1 year or if you did it in 2 years. So this is the general requirements at the bottom. So you finish let's say you're going for your bachelor's and you finish and you had a 2.9 GPA. Then you start out as a GS5. If you had a 3.0 or higher, you're a 7. And then if you were doing your program, you had a master's when you're done, then you start out as a 9 when you convert. So this is more of what you will see when you're inside of, you'll actually see pathways with some of the announcements when you're in USA Jobs. Next, please. This is what an announcement will look like. It'll say we have 1 vacancy in the following area, Fort Belvoir, Virginia. I will tell you, if you do get called back and they say, hey, we're interested in you, they may ask you, hey, are you willing to relocate? And you can tell them yes, no, can I work out of San Antonio? I don't know. Whatever. That's between you and HR. I'm not really allowed to talk about, hiring stuff because if I'm wrong, you sue me.
For the move though.
I will tell you, it's just like when you're a brand new soldier, right, at an AIT, right? You don't get paid for that move to your first duty station. The federal service the same way. You don't get paid for that first move.
Unless you know somebody who knows somebody, and knows somebody.
Excellent. All right, so this is the end of my Army audit presentation. That's my information, but you'll have that on I have business cards, you'll have my email, phone number, to my office, which if you bring it today, I'm not there. I have a government iPhone too, but it's turned off in my bag. All right, any questions on this presentation? Yes.
Did you have any experience when you started here? When
No.
you applied? No?
No.
So you
And
don't have to have any accounting experience to apply for that position?
So the recent hire position, no. The recent grad, not recent hire. Recent grad and in the internship, no. Both of the announcements even say that, experience required. Now, if you want to try to come in as a full journeyman, 11 or 12, then you have to have experience, show where in your resume.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to have references and that type of stuff. Yes.
So I'm assuming that's where you have the recent hire and the interclass, so you can get that experience, so you can get to know that. It's kind of like where these positions are available in the internship and
Yes.
get to have both education and experience.
Yes. To gain experience on the job, the OJT. Yes.
So, you mentioned a background check earlier. Does that, do you have to have any, qualify for any clearance? Or?
Yes. So as an intern, you don't have to have a clearance, but you do have to be a U.S. citizen, I guess, to prepare you to get a clearance, because you have to be a U.S. citizen to get a clearance. You do have to have a secret clearance. So this is how it was told to me. Our team right here, or most of the teams, almost all the teams, none of us do top secret or secret audit. We don't even do secret audits, but we have to have a secret clearance because we know enough pieces that you can piece together more information if you really want to. Not that you want to, but you know, I don't want to. But but that's what it is. You get exposed to enough that you can get a bigger picture. But we do have teams that do secret audits. They're in different locations. I will say that they don't use the same programs we use. I think they still almost like paper. They do paper audits. And they like can't take any phones in, no nothing, you know. They came to us to describe how they work, to try to recruit us. And I think a lot of people are like, yeah. So it's like you really have to know your environment. You can't even pick up the phone in there because I'm talking to someone and I'm not talking to someone secretly, but someone over there is. So I can't pick up my phone and start talking because if he's talking a secret conversation, I can't have this conversation. So I have to say, hey, anybody having a non-secret, can I have this non-secret conversation? Okay, yes, it's funny you talk. So I was like, maybe later in my career I might want to do something like that.
What's the gap, that they accept with, security clearances?
So, I don't know the answer to that question. So I retired 2013, so my clearance, pretty much if you don't have someone backing your clearance, I know sometimes people tell you, okay, it's good 2 years after you get out of the military. If you aren't in the military, no one's gonna keep you in the roles.
I can actually
Okay.
answer that one a bit better. Top secret, 5 years from the last time it was renewed. Secret, 10 years from the last time it was renewed. That's how long it stays in the system, whether you're in or not.
Okay. But they'll wait. If someone's having a problem with their clearance and they offered you a job, they will wait. I've seen people a year. Of course, the team's not happy because they're short a person for a whole year, but they'll wait. And then when the clearance is good, they'll let you come on down.
So if you already have a clearance, they just reinstate it, pretty much, or do you have to go through the whole?
Oh, you're gonna fill the paperwork out. You're gonna do the paperwork, and then I mean that goes through our security manager, same as anywhere else in the Army. But yeah, I had to fill out everything. Yes.
So 15% of government fraud is found by internal auditors. Did you know that?
No.
So my question is,
Dr. Tennant would know that.
have you personally encountered anything that would fit that bill without violating your
How
secret?
about just interest?
Have you found anything interesting or?
There you go.
There you go, yes, that's reframed the question.
Talk about that.
Okay, not a problem.
No, what I say about that is so I've done 2 medical audits, right?
Okay.
Everything does come down to money at some point, appropriations and funding, and but you know we start out on the ground as romantic as it's gonna be, is opening up boxes and going through boxes and counting equipment and supplies that's supposed to be there. Says you have this, right? This. Oh, what's in this container over here, over there? We knew you were coming, but you know.
We didn't care.
So open it up. You know, I got my boots on. I got my jeans and my polo shirt, and I'm in there digging, trying to find stuff. So at some point, you go to okay. So you guys are funded to refurbish this stuff every so many years. You know, what do you do with these funds? Because this stuff's old. This isn't. Oh. Have I come across blatant fraud? No, I've come across people who don't really understand how the regulation's written and what it means. Maybe they do, maybe they don't care. Maybe they assume that when they get the magical deployment orders, they're gonna get magical money and it's gonna make stuff appear that they don't have. And I will say that that's not the way the Army works anymore. I mean, that might have been when the Gulf War kicked off. You're going out the door, I'm gonna give you all this stuff. And unfortunately, that perpetuates itself over time. People just assume that every time I'm ready to go somewhere, I'm gonna get this magical money and everything's gonna be great. Well, the magic runs out at some point. You know, you open up all these reserves and finally at some point there isn't magical stuff anymore. So
So how did that work out with Korea when there was a lot of stuff that was appropriated, I'll put it to you that way? How did the audits fare out in Korea?
I don't know. I mean, we have a team over there. I don't know if I really understand the question.
Cause there
Was
was
there
a
a
lot
scandal or
of stuff
something?
going on in Korea
You mean
at the time.
what, North Korea and then, I don't know. I'm losing out.
In South Korea, not North Korea, with all the equipment, for the soldiers that just was disappearing. How did that fare out on the audits?
I don't know. I wasn't exposed to that audit. I don't.
Oh.
Sorry. All right.
So back to the joy,
Um,
your life, daily job life.
that's like a vague topic. I don't really know where you're going with that. So what I will tell you is, okay, look, this is a perfect segue into the right side of the line, right? Right side of the line, professional, that I personally am striving to be. I will tell you my technical expertise isn't there. This is my best friend right here. This is the yellow book. And the yellow book is the generally accepted governmental auditing standards. GAGS. There we go. We always say GAGS. We say GAGS. GAGS. And nobody really knows what it's about. You know. So GAGS, the yellow book no longer is in print. This actual version isn't in print anymore. But Amazon will print it. You can order it online and get it. Because the agency used to provide the manual, but now they don't. And I like books. I love books. And this is our, I don't want to call it Bible, but it's our technical manual. And my friend. So, thank you. Oh, I didn't go through none of my slides. I had little tidbits for all those slides. Kind of got distracted, I guess. So, I would say in the beginning, I think life is a little frustrating, but that's anytime you change careers, right? You go from one thing to another, you have expectations, you know, you go from being this almost perfect 4.0 student. No, I wouldn't say perfect. Dr. Kalk got me a couple times when I so 3 points, a something, whatever, I don't know. I wasn't like some of the other people who had their 4.0s. But, you know, you go from that life to, I'm making it, I'm doing pretty good. I'm gonna transfer right into the job world and be that stellar again. And you're not so stellar, you know, when you get there. You know, you get the, you can do better. It's okay, but you know, you can do better. You know, it's only so much of that you get, and you start to feel like, man, what is this? Where have I gotten myself into? But you know, that's when you have to dig down deep and become better. And I will say that, no fault of anyone. I think when you're the new person, it's a team thing. The audit's a team, right? But when you're a new person, we're all about our evaluations, right? So we can't have a new person coming in and being stellar. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that's the intent. I'm not gonna say that's what people do. But they know how hard it was when they came in, so they're not gonna make it easier. You know, they had to go through their little molding, their little rough patches. So it's kind of like a
So you don't
Rite of
purposely make it difficult
rite of
for the
passage.
newbies.
No, I'm not gonna say purposely make it difficult. I'm gonna say I remember having a couple of conversations. I'd say, hey, is there an easier way to? Why is this so hard? And they, hey, you know what? You just gotta figure it out. Okay. So I don't know. All right, the right side of the line. I looked at all the attributes, and I will tell you, they all pertain. Everything pertains to auditing. But I did pick out a couple that I want to talk about. If I had to summarize what I see, because we have some really smart people that work for the agency, don't get me wrong. Really smart individuals. I'm not gonna throw the I word out there, I'm not gonna say the introverts, but we do have some areas where, I don't know, where, I'm not gonna say chinks in the armor, but you just have some people that maybe have some skills they can work on. All right. One of them is talking to others. I know we have communication in here, but I just want to touch this real quick. Being a team thing, being on a team, you know, we have to go out, we have to conduct interviews. I like to call it have conversations with people, but we have to conduct interviews because we have to find out what they know. We have to find out, you know, are they not following the standard because they know the standard but don't want to do the standard? Or are they not following the standard because they just don't know what it is? They don't know that's what they're supposed to do. Is that a leadership failure? Is that a failure to train? Is that a failure because of funding? Did they not get funded in the program? So I found it comfortable to talk to people. And maybe because they're soldiers. I don't know. I've talked to soldiers my whole career. So I kind of got put in the, hey, you're good with talking with people. You do that. Because maybe someone else doesn't want to, you know, because they're good with their data crunching or they're good with something else. So they, you know, I'm not gonna say they niche you. You're good with this is your niche. But maybe it's, they don't want to expose their weakness in an area or something like that. Perhaps. Talking with others, conducting your interviews, right? And you have to take time to prepare. I like to take time to prepare before I do it. I don't want to just run in there and think I know what I'm going to talk about. I will tell you, a lot of times when we sit down and talk with people, they're not alone. They're going to have their managers, their chain of command there. They're going to have their subject matter experts there. And unfortunately, it's happened in the past, so I think that's why people are like sharks in the water. They want to hear what we're going to say, and sometimes people are quick to discredit us. They want to say, okay, well, you didn't look at this regulation. How are you going to sit here and ask me this question? You don't even know what you're talking about. So, you know, it's going to get your courage. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But you sit there, and if you're not prepared, I'm not going to say people discredit you, but they want to. They want to just deflate you to the point where, okay, this is not important. You're wasting my time. Why am I sitting here getting audited when you don't even know what you're talking about? I personally haven't seen it happen, but I've been challenged a couple of times, and I was glad I was prepared because you could see where that conversation was going. Someone's trying to set you up to not be ready or to look like you don't know what you're talking about. I've had that happen, and I was prepared. I was very prepared. One, for instance, I will tell you is I had someone rattle off a process because you know what's one of the things we do. What's the process? How does this work? And this guy just rattled his process off. We do this. I send it to this person. And then the person sitting next to me was his boss. And she said to me, oh, I didn't catch what he said. What did he say? And I guess she thought I was going to be like, oh, I don't know. But I rattled it right back. And she was like, and she didn't say nothing else the rest of the time. The rest of the interview, she was very quiet. She didn't say anything else. I guess I got my kudo for that day. All right, so. Right side of the line talks about courage. It says the mental strength to preserve in the face of pressure, opposition, or adversity. I will tell you by nature of our job, everywhere we go, we're the adversary. Mm-hmm. When we show up, oh, the auditors are here. The auditors are here. You know, we sit down, the table's already set up. The table has everyone sitting on one side and our chairs on the other side. So it's already, you know, face-to-face confrontational. You know, probably the worst situation I've ever was in was I was at JBLM, Joint Base Lewis McCoy up in Washington. And we sat down at a table. It was three of us, and it was a 3-star general sitting right across from the three of us. And I was like, ooh, this is rough. And everybody that we had to talk about, because we were there for a whole week doing a site visit, was sitting behind us. So he would look at us, he would look at them. He would look at us, ask us what happened, we would tell him what we found, and then he'd look at them. And we could hear them, we could like feel behind us, oh, well, it wasn't that bad. You know, or whatever they were saying. And that was very adversarial. It felt like it. I'm pretty sure that wasn't his intent, but it was. But you have to have the courage to sit down and have these discussions and talk to people, and you have to have the courage to Just the regulation says you have to do it this way. Why aren't you? Why doesn't it happen this way? Why? You know, you have to get the why. We can't just go out to a site and say, okay, it's broke, and come back and say it's broke, because that doesn't do the Army any justice. Doesn't tell the command anything. I'm pretty sure the command knew it was broke when they sent us out there. They knew that's why we're going. Something's broke. Something's not happening. The process isn't working. So I have a little example I like to use, because that's what I remember when I was brand new. They would tell us, okay, new auditors, they come in, they're great at identifying the problem. Boom, this is the problem. Okay, so what's the cause? This is the cause. No, we want the root cause, not the cause. So you get to the root cause by asking why until you can't ask why anymore. So I create a little example I like to do. So when people ask me, what do you do? Okay, so we have a building. Employees are falling, they're getting hurt all the time. And we want to know why they're getting hurt. So the auditors go out there, we go out there. And we go, we find this area that they get hurt, we go to that area and there's water on the floor. So we say, okay, man, they're falling because there's water on the floor. We recommend that you mop that up. Okay, they mop it up. Someone else falls. Boom. Oh, there's more water on the floor. So that recommendation we gave didn't fix it because there's still more water on the floor. So now we need to figure out, why is there water on the floor? So we have them knock it to the wall. There's a pipe leaking. Okay, there's a pipe leaking. Okay, fix that leaky pipe. All right, nobody's falling anymore. That was the root cause, leaky pipe. But was that the root cause? Why was the pipe leaking? So you dig in further, you find out every 2 years, maintenance is supposed to be done in the building. And has the maintenance been done? No, it's been 6 years since the maintenance was last done. Ooh, okay, so is that the root cause? No maintenance. No maintenance, that's the root cause. Maybe not. Dig some more, ask why again. So then we find out that there was no funding, or funding was used for something else. They haven't been actually performing the maintenance because they've been using the money for something else. So that's kind of like the short example I like to give. You have to keep asking why until you can't find out, can't ask why anymore. You can't find out what they're, can't go any deeper. That's it. We've got to it. We got to the point where we knew somebody was using those funds on a truck somewhere on the other side of post instead of fixing that building or that pipe, or they thought that building was going to get condemned, or that building should have been recoded for something else. People shouldn't even been working in that building. I don't know. But that's what we do. You keep asking why until you can't find, you know. And that's hard sometimes, because I'll tell you, you will show up someplace and people will tell you the why. Because I don't know if they want you out of there, or they just want you to know, this is the reason why I think it is. Let me save you some time. I don't have much time anyway, let's hurry up. Oh, no, this is broke because of this. You need to go talk to Mr. Such and Such, because he's the one who's supposed to be doing this, and he doesn't do it. And he left last year, he retired, nobody else took over that job. It's his fault. So you can sit there and say, okay, that's good. So where does he work? Where is it? Okay. And then you come right back, you know, a couple hours later. Well, I don't think it was really him. I need to ask more questions. I need to talk to someone else. I need to do something else. And then that can be hard for a new auditor, because how do you do that? How do you ask that, you know? Depends on who you're talking to. There's some personalities out there. You just have to, stick to what you're doing, your objective, your goal. So I talked about site visits, I talked about interviews, entrance conferences. I like to, you know, just like any other audit, you show up at an entrance conference and you talk to, a lot of times you don't talk to the generals in the entrance conference. They want to know what you found later. They don't want to talk to you in the beginning. They might send a chief of staff or something, but you sit down and that's when you tell people why you're there. Why are you there? We send all this stuff out beforehand, but it's always when you get there, oh, we just found out you guys were coming, that type of stuff. I like to say that information doesn't really get down as much. So that's probably my adversarial part in preparing. Stay disciplined. I don't know how many times I've heard comments that I think were really meant for me to hear. Like, I'm not gonna say adversarial, but it's stuff that if you don't stay disciplined, it can really work you up. You just have to realize that that's just a defense mechanism people use sometimes to try to, I don't know, you know, somebody's pulling out a box, why are we doing this? And they put a box down. Man, I could sit there and say, oh, this is an audit, this is why we're doing it. I'd let it go. Sometimes you hear some interesting things. You hear some stuff that's revealing. We never take this stuff down. probably part of the problem. You never take it down, you never look at it, you know? could that really be the reason, you know? I will tell you, talking on the phone is very hard. Because you really don't, you can't see, you have no cues, you don't know, you only can just listen to what people are telling you. That can be very difficult as far as conversations. Which takes me into communication. Listening to understand, I mean, that's just what it is. That's what we do. You know, I have to make sure you understand what I'm talking about, and I understand what you're talking about. I like to say, I have every question prepared at least 2 ways how I ask it. One, it's gonna be very technical, because I wanna know if you actually read the regulation or read what you're supposed to be doing. And then one is the layman's terms when I get that look. When I say, so how often do you do this in accordance with, blah, 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 and they give me that look. And I go, how often do you inventory your sets? How many times a year or whatever? And then they'll give me an answer. So they know the answer, they just didn't know the answer the way I, you know. And I do it 2 ways to find out if they know or if they're subject matter expert sitting there wants to hear it a certain way to know that I looked it up too. I will tell you, toning, you know, I don't necessarily sit around in the office reading this, so I do take my own time to prepare. It's really easy when you're on site visits. I know people like to go places and they say, oh, you're in Seattle, did you go to the fish market, did you do this, did you do that? No, I spent my night before getting ready for my next day. It's great at the end if you have time to maybe visit something on your way back to the airport or something like that, but I think I do way more after-hour stuff when I'm on a site visit than I am, because there's only so much you can prepare for before you go to a location. So you get there the first day and you ask a certain question and you get a certain look, or you get looks from all your questions. So the next day I have to revamp all my questions. None of them worked. No one understood what I was talking about. I had to re-ask it. I had to take so much time to do that. So I need to, you know, I get back to the hotel, what do I need to change? So that's part of, you know, taking your time to help your profession and help yourself and to help the team, to help the audit. It's some of the stuff that I like to do personally. I mean, I don't like to do it. I know it needs to be done, and I do it. I had one more. Oh, also on the note, so I used to get the Army Times when I was in the Army. That's the little magazine you get at the PX. It talks about, some of the stuff is like Soldier 1 medal or something, and then some of it is the upper level strategic stuff, Secretary of the Army once or Generals one or whatever. You know, somebody turned me onto that, and they said, hey, that's a really good magazine to have. So we have to do audit proposals. You know, some people, you go to a site visit, you look at something, you see something, you write it down, make a mental note, look it up later. Maybe that's something I need to look at later. I see a helicopter doesn't look right, something's wrong with it. You know, does the Army need to look into this? But you can get a lot of stuff from the Army Times magazine. And the news, I mean, when big stuff hits the news, a lot of times that affects our agency too. All hands on deck, you know, like the housing thing that was going on for a while. Some of us had to do that, had to get pulled off their audits to do that stuff. So it pays to stay informed. I haven't looked at the clock one time. I think I'm running along. Any questions?
We have one.
Yes.
I did a lot of inspections
Yes.
myself, and in terms of the accounting side of it, how much of that do you get to do on a daily basis or monthly basis instead of just going out and doing
Okay, so
inspections or auditing parts?
we have 2 teams. We have FMX and FMF. So FMF, I really should know what that is. I know it's financial. Yeah, don't get me lying. Don't take it. So anyway, we have one team that does a lot of financials, and we have another team that they get referred stuff that's potential fraudulent. That's the FMX. So they handle a lot of the financial stuff. Everything goes back to money at some point, back to GFIBs or back to allocations. So we all look for funds, but when they actually go into really looking at the pennies and what's going on, it's gonna be FMF and FMX. I don't know how it's gonna work with the pooling. Well, I do know a little bit, but. So we have teams for that. If you really want that, I would say, once you get in there, be like, I wanna do this all the time. Anything else?
No more?
I think that's all I have.